Panic! Panic! Kitty's gone and panic bought. We heard a rumour that they're going to close the LCBO and the beer stores today at midnight or 8 o'clock. And pretty much that means you can't buy liquor or wine or beer particularly easily in Ontario. So Kitty panic bought. Now she did buy some sensible stuff. She decided to go out and she bought a few bits and pieces. So I see she hit the stores, which is good. If you're going to go out, you might as well make it worthwhile. Anyway, hopefully she has enough alcohol. Right, Bear? That would be an SHTF if there's no red wine. Bear, what did Mummy get? Probably got about a 3 or 4 days supply. Meow. Well, all joking aside, the state of emergency was declared today in Ontario, so there's a whole bunch of stuff shutting. And the big rumour is they are going to close the LCBO and the beer stores, which is causing a massive panic right about now. Kitty heard it early and got in quick. Intel, right? So what have I been doing today? Well, I'm getting ready to work tomorrow night, and I haven't been on work email at all because I'm frankly kind of depressed. I had a terrible day yesterday. I kind of perked up a little today. So this is going to go out tomorrow, so it's the 17th today. So I'm sure events will be changing in the next 24 hours, so bear with me with this. So what am I doing? What I'm doing is I'm tidying up my basement, which is an absolute prepper mess. And I'm sorting stuff out. I'm putting the dehydrated food in one box, I'm putting the extra medical equipment in another box, doing a whole bunch of sorting out and also chucking out, because cleanliness is next to godliness. So we did have a day where we had to go out. I had to go out and refill a medical prescription for an antihypertensive that I'm on, because I'm still not exercising enough and I'm older. So one of the things I did was I went to a different brand. I went to Rexall with a new prescription and they filled 100 days of it for me out of the 200 days, which is great because I already have 100 days anyway. So I'm well covered for the meds, not too bothered about that. Worst case scenario, I can really stop the Nicorette and do a few other things that would help, but of course we don't do that. But given it's a state of emergency, perhaps this is the time. The other thing we did whilst we were in the store, there was almost nobody in it. We were very careful what we did with our hands, etc. We bought a whole raft of things while we were in there. No, we didn't buy toilet roll. There was a little bit of toilet roll there and people walking around with it, clutching it like it was a life belt. Like I say, I last bought toilet paper in October and I've still got far too much, but anyway, that's life. So we did things like extra toothpaste, and we bought extra toothpaste for the next 3 months. Though we have supply for ourselves, we bought extra toothpaste so Kitty's parents and her sister, if they start to run out in a month or two, they can get it from us rather than have to go shopping for it. So I think that's an important thing. The stores, the grocery stores, the pharmacists will not shut. What's going to be available is going to be limited. Access may be limited. I think it's really smart. Some of the stores already are saying that unless you're really old, you can't shop between certain hours, so the old people can shop on their own before the rest of us go to the store. I think that's a great idea. Though I did get a discount being over 55 today. So my fellow Cumbrian nurse, Dr. John Campbell, is actually still promoting having a fever to fight viruses. I 100% agree with him. I 100% agree with the research, except when you're in your own home with a fever from COVID-19 and you cannot get 911 or a 999 ambulance and you cannot get to a hospital, I completely disagree, and I think it will kill a lot of people. If things get that bad, and they very well might for a period of a week or two or even longer, that if you're in your home, especially if you're elderly and you are ill with COVID-19 and you do not take Tylenol to drive down your temperature, there's a high degree of likelihood you will get dehydrated, and whatever effects you're trying to do to try and burn off the virus and make it uninhabitable for the virus won't work. You'll die. I think he's absolutely wrong on this. My gut tells me you must drive down that fever if you're at home and you cannot access intravenous infusions and electrolyte blood testing. I think it's an absolute outrage that he's sticking to research has proven. Yes, research proves categorically that a low temperature below 38.6 is a good idea not to treat with antipyretics. He uses all the language, with stuff that reduces your temperature, because it will actually make it a more hostile environment for the bacteria or the virus. Great idea, John. But man, when people are in their own home and nobody's nursing them and they have no IVs, specifically if they're elderly, they will get so dehydrated so fast that it will kill them. So that is why I'm still maintaining that you take Tylenol 1 to 2 tablets every 4 hours if you're at home and can't get to healthcare. if you have a fever. I also recommend taking aspirin every 4 hours, 2 hours later, 1 to 2 for aches and pains. Which brings me to a whole new topic. The French are suggesting strongly that non-steroidal medications actually should not be used, and they actually have a worse outlook. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to put up a list of non-steroidal medications that are in North America. There's a couple more at the bottom of the list I didn't put up. The links are in the description, but they're actually out of stock. They're no longer available anyway. So have a good look at this list. If you're on this list and you need it for a medical purpose, keep taking it, but talk to your healthcare provider this week about what to do if you think you have COVID-19 and you're still on this medication. Obviously, you don't want to stop this medication if it's going to destroy your life or make you immobile, and I'm not recommending that. So if you're on these medications anyway, take them. But if you're taking Advil, ibuprofen for generalized muscular aches and pains, this is the time now to switch to Tylenol. Now my audience is pretty smart. They don't just look at what I say and go, he's right, and I think that's a good thing. Aspirin is a non-steroidal. The reason I'm still maintaining that I personally will use it if I really have serious influenza with a high temperature, the reason is that it actually works in a different way from the other classification of non-steroidals. So it does not work the same way. It alters how its mechanism of functioning, and of course I could start going about COX and ACE inhibitors and all the rest of it. Who cares? So don't take aspirin unless you need to. I would keep it in reserve. I still think for the elderly at home with no healthcare available, dehydration will kill them much, much more easily than the COVID-19 ARDS cycle will kill them. It's a specialized area, this, and there's no real way of knowing, but it's you gotta not get dehydrated if you can't get to a hospital. Absolutely. Water is a survival priority. Water inside you is a survival priority. It's better to have the flu for an extra 2 or 3 days than to actually lapse into so serious dehydration your kidneys fail and you go unconscious. That's over if you're not being medically treated. Now, I've been wrestling with this for a couple of weeks. I was sent a subscriber a bunch of research papers by science, and of course there's lots of science out there that actually suggests that this is actually a good idea for this type of flu, specifically for the SARS-CoV-2 virus. Do I recommend this? No. Do I think you should talk to a healthcare provider about this? Yeah, I do. But in fairness, I think the time has come that I have to be open about what I'm doing. So Kitty has not started this, her parents have not started this, her sister has not started this. I started this yesterday. I'll put up some slides and I'll talk about them at the end of this talk. But this is still available, though getting more and more restricted via Amazon.ca. So, and it's also reasonably cheap, and the side effects are reasonably limited, and the drug interactions are reasonable. Is this just a placebo? A cure in a bottle? Probably. But at this point, I don't care anymore. I do think this might be an answer to reducing a chance of it, and also critically reducing the severity of it. And if it isn't, I apologize. So do not rush out and buy this. If you're going to buy this, talk to a medical professional first, not a nurse, not Dr. John Campbell either. Talk to a doctor who understands these sort of things. Have a really good look at what I'm putting up, and also go and look yourself online. Do not take any medication without prescription. This is available without prescription, but it is a medication, and it does have some issues, which I'm going to talk about in detail. The other one I strongly recommend right now, and I have been taking this for quite some time, I'm trying to get Kitty to take it, is vitamin D. 2,000 milligrams once a day. A whole bunch of arguments for taking this. I take 2,000 milligrams once a day, and again, it's expensive but not that expensive, and you will notice that it is vegan sourced. The NAC is not vegan sourced. This comes from egg and cheese and then plant sources, so pretty much most of what you're going to get is vegetarian. That's actually been a critical factor with Kitty not starting this, and I think that's an error. Her sister, who's also vegan, agrees with me. I've just had a conversation with her. She's going to do some independent research as well, because 2 eyes are better than 1, because we all can be blind. But in a situation that we're in, if this has any effectiveness at all, to not take it because it may have egg and cheese in it is absolutely dopey. So having teased you, I'm just going to talk about the emergency, the state of emergency in Ontario. So yeah, we have now officially got an emergency state in Ontario. The word on the street is everything is closing apart from gas stations, grocery stores, pharmacies. Okay? So there's a list of other stuff been put up by the government, and I will show that in a minute, but they did not mention LCBO and they did not mention the beer store. The rumour on the street is both of those will close. They are effectively pretty much the only way to get alcohol in Ontario, though a few of the grocery stores do serve beer. But if the LCBO or the beer store both are shut, the stores in the stores, the grocery stores, will disappear. So Kitty actually got in quite quick and panicked and got the red wine, and I'm laughing at her about it. I actually told her not to bother. I don't think it was necessary. But because we had to go out to get my prescription meds today, whilst we were out, we also got a lot more dog food, a lot more cat food, and a whole bunch of hard goods and a whole bunch of other supplies in the grocery store and also the pharmacy. So we weren't going to stores, we went to a store and knew we were at risk, but I needed my meds, so we bought up in the store. And then she went to her Nature Emporium, which is her really, it's like Whole Foods is like food stamps, right? So Nature Emporium's like, ooh, massively congested, interestingly. People are panicking now. The Rexall, the store we went to as well, the chemists, that actually had a lot of stuff missing. I think that's really interesting. People are buying the most ridiculous things. Anyway, long story short, didn't want to go out today. We went out today because I wanted to get my prescription medication available to me for 6 months and not for 3 months from this point. And I do think that's important. This could go on 6 months to 9 months. Hopefully it won't. That's it with me. I'm just going to finish up with some people in Ontario today talking about the food shortages and COVID-19 in stores and stuff. Before I get into that, I just want to put up a couple of slides. One is all of this money that's now being thrown at healthcare by the feds and also by the provincial people. I would point out that my hospital's annual budget is about $1.2 billion Canadian. So when the government's giving $1 billion to the country for healthcare, when the province is giving $300 million for healthcare and stuff like that, it's nothing. It's really, really tiny. This is going to cost a huge amount of money, and it's going to cause a huge amount of disruption. The other one is, where is COVID-19? I want to move to that state. They've managed to successfully isolate themselves, but I believe they're absolutely riddled with it, but they've done zero testing. Oh well. Well, that's it for me. Remember, tomorrow will always be worse than today in SHTF, unless you prep, or if it's a pandemic, in which case tomorrow will always be worse than today until we hit the peak, which we will. Now, I just want to say that there will be another video where I'm going to go about NAC in detail. I remember to tell you right now, I am not a doctor. I am not suggesting you use this product. What I am saying is that I personally am using it, but I haven't convinced Kitty or her sister or her parents as yet to use it. It is buyer beware. Get medical advice. Be very, very careful about taking any sort of magic pill or magic crystals or magic silver solution that people recommended online, even if they're not selling it. The reason I'm mentioning it at this point is because I have looked at it and I think it has some possibilities, and I think it has very low risk, and I was convinced enough to buy it because I felt it was running out and becoming unavailable, and the only people that know about this are kind of research chemists and scientists, and that triggered me into buying enough for myself and my immediate family. And yesterday I decided, after doing some more research, that I'm using it. So I'm not telling you to go out and use this product. I don't want you to. If you look at it and if you talk to a healthcare provider and you think this is a good idea for you personally in your circumstances, go ahead. But please don't start shoving stuff into your mouths and into your children's mouths just because talking heads on YouTube say it's a good idea. It's a good idea, I think, for me today. I will be looking for further research. I will be keeping a close eye on it. Nobody knows what COVID-19 really requires, or what the real treatments are, or how long it's going to be, or whether people who've been infected and now cured can get reinfected. Nobody knows. Deal with it. This is ambiguous. Ambiguity is life. We like linear, we like straight. COVID-19 is an SHTF. It's a global SHTF. It's now here. It's not going away very soon, and we have to deal with it. It's going to cause a huge temporary collapse of the economy. It's going to cause a huge social re-engineering of government and society on socialist grounds for the time being. and you can rave and rumble and go on about it all you like. It's the only way to beat it, collectively. Anyway, stay safe. Toodles.
Be sick. You don't know who's going to get sick. We're all going to do our part. We are all staying at home with our own families, and we're not seeing each other. We're staying apart, especially because of March break, you know, and some of my family members canceled trips just because they don't want to be quarantined in another country. That's the only reason.
Well, I don't think I could be called a hoarder. I just bought one package of toilet paper and one package of paper towel.
But people are stocking up heavily on.
I don't think they should. They should get what they need for a couple of weeks, as we've been told. And the Loblaws at Maple Gardens was very well stocked. It was extremely busy, but everybody seemed polite and patient and waited in line. There's no flooding or anything like that.
Yesterday, I shared with you that my wife Sophie was being tested for COVID-19, and that test did come back positive. Sophie's symptoms remain mild, but we're following medical advice and taking every precaution. She will remain in isolation for the time being. We are thinking about all the families across the country who've received the same diagnosis. But we're in good hands. We have full confidence in Canada's health officials and professionals. This means that, upon my doctor's recommendation, I will remain in self-isolation for 14 days. I want to be clear, I have no symptoms, and I'm feeling good. And technology allows me to work from home. Of course, it's an inconvenience and somewhat frustrating. We are all social beings, after all. But we have to do this, because we have to protect our neighbors and our friends, especially our more vulnerable seniors and people with pre-existing conditions. We are following medical advice, as should all Canadians. Earlier today, Ministers Blair, Hajdu and Garneau announced that Canada has advised Canadians to curtail non-essential international travel and that the cruise season is suspended until July, and that we are bringing in additional screening measures at airports. We are also streamlining overseas arrivals to be better positioned for screening. Yesterday, we saw many provinces take strong steps to keep people safe. They are doing what needs to be done to protect the public, and I want to thank them for their exemplary work. Later today, I will have a call with the premiers and Indigenous leaders to discuss the latest developments and coordinate our efforts, including the over $1 billion COVID-19 response fund, which provides money to the provinces and territories to support preparation and mitigation. These are significant steps, and we will do more. The provinces and territories are facing various levels of risk, but we will make sure that we align our response across the country. Addressing COVID-19 must be a Team Canada effort.
I'm coming from LAX, Los Angeles, California, and I was at a film festival 2.5 hours out of California, Los Angeles, California, called the Idlewild Film Festival. Flight back was great, pretty smooth, but I'll tell you, the airport in LAX was like a dead zone. It was like literally Night of the Living Dead. It was very quiet, and you could feel the vibration of fear. As soon as we arrived in Vancouver, literally they just asked us if we had any flu-like symptoms, and then again to self-quarantine yourself for 14 days. Isolate, actually, so I'm not really good with isolation, but I guess I'm going to have to do it anyways, and hopefully get my jogs and my workouts in as well.
And what do you have a plan for self-isolation?
Load up with lots of healthy food. Try to keep myself active as I can around the house with some exercise, and just try to remain really positive and send out good vibrations for the people of the world. This is a serious deal, and obviously we don't want to make this much bigger than it already is. So with binding together and uniting as one, I believe that we could actually overcome this, and this could be a good thing. Turn it into a positive. The negative into the positive is very real.
This has been a Bad Terry production 2020.